221 teachings _ of Zurchung Sherap Drakpa. Teachings of Zurchung Sherap Drakpa. Further teachings on authentic conduct. On yet another occasion, when I encountered Zurchung Sherap Drakpa in the blazing volcano charnel ground in the self-appearing, actual Akanistha, I asked, "O Guru, please grant me practical instructions that are your heart essence expressed with few words but comprehensive meaning." He replied, "O you who have assembled accumulations, prayers, and karmic momentum for incalculable eons, listen. If you wish to ascend to the state of omniscient Buddhahood, please your Guru, with constant admiration and reverence, in all your activities. Continuously cultivate affection and pure perception regarding your friends. With heartfelt compassion for sentient beings, strive for liberation and the state of omniscience. Constantly bearing in mind the impermanence of all composite phenomena, abandon mundane activities and dwell in a state of inactivity. This is the unsurpassed quintessence of all dharmas." 3 vital points are offering service to the Sublime Guru by not squandering his practical instructions, honoring your samayas without hypocrisy, as the life principle stone of the gods and guardians, and devoting your whole life to the Dharma, so that you know there is nothing left unfinished at the time of death. Guarding your samayas and vows as if they were your own life force is the vital point to prevent contemplatives from degenerating into ordinary people. Cultivating contentment with regard to sensory pleasures is how to not get caught up in negative objects. Recognizing that samsara has no essence is how to cut through the fixations of attachment and aversion. Recognizing that mundane activities are never finished and accomplished, that they are like lines of smoke from an incense clock, is the pith instruction for bringing activities to a close. On yet another occasion, when I encountered Zurchung Sherap Drakpa in the blazing volcano charnel ground in the self-appearing, actual Akanistha, I asked, "O Guru, please grant me practical instructions that are your heart essence expressed with few words but comprehensive meaning." He replied, "O you who have assembled accumulations, prayers, and karmic momentum for incalculable eons, if you wish to ascend to the state of omniscient Buddhahood, 1. At all times and on all occasions have admiration and reverence for your Guru, 2. Cultivate affection and pure perception regarding your VAJRA siblings and friends, 3. Strive for liberation and the state of omniscience with compassion for sentient beings, and 4. Meditate on the impermanence of life." These 4 are indispensable. 1. First, you must embrace the essence by devoting yourself solely to a spiritual mentor, who is the root of the path. The condensed perfection of wisdom states, "Always devote yourself to wise gurus." Why? Because qualities of wisdom arise from them. Just as you devote yourself to a doctor to heal your illnesses. Diligently devote yourself to a spiritual mentor. As for the Guru to whom to devote yourself, whatever Dharma he teaches, he should have in mind, reveal, and elucidate only the absolute space of phenomena, ultimate truth. In this way, the spiritual mentor should guide you along a straight path. Regarding his specific qualities, the clear elucidation of Samayas states, there are 6 kinds of akayas, general akayas, akaya guides. Akayas for samayas and empowerments, akayas for restoring broken commitments. Akayas for liberating the mind, and akayas for pith instructions and oral transmissions. One who is a master of the general teachings, who is revered by everyone, and who receives modest gratitude is a general akaya. A master who leads you to the entrance of the Dharma, by granting monastic ordination for example, is an akaya guide. One who grants samayas and bestows empowerments is an akaya for samayas and empowerments. One to whom you confess faults and downfalls is an akaya for restoring broken commitments. One who teaches Dharma, for instance, is an akaya for liberating the mind. One who offers pith instructions and grants oral transmissions is an akaya for pith instructions and oral transmissions. Among these kinds, the teacher who clearly reveals the inner meaning of real primordial consciousness by bestowing empowerments that ripen and guidance that liberates, together with providing pith instructions and oral transmissions, embodies the essential nature of all gurus and perfectly synthesizes them in one lineage. So correctly devote yourself to all the teachings in the tantras and scriptures. Without pretense, devote your body, speech, and mind to whatever is pleasing to the Guru. It is important that you constantly behave with admiration and reverence. With heartfelt admiration and reverence for such a Guru who is imbued with those three kindnesses, think of him as actually being the great Orgain. Then, when you are sitting, imagine him on the crown of your head; when walking, imagine him above your right shoulder; when lying down, imagine him at your heart; and when eating and drinking, imagine him at your throat. By so doing, look upon him as the foundation of your supplications, the object of your circumambulations, the essential nature of your own clear light awareness, and the field by which you accumulate merit and knowledge. By serving and seeking refuge in him without being separated from the four kinds of knowledge, the non-conceptual primordial consciousness of the Guru's midstream will be powerfully transferred to you. Zurchung Rinpoche stated. If the sun of admiration and reverence does not rise on the snow mountain of the four kayas of the Guru, the stream of blessings will not flow. So earnestly devote your mind to admiration and reverence for him. Thus, meditating on the sublime Vajra Guru, offering prayers of supplication, receiving empowerments, merging your mind with his, and so on, ripen you along all the paths of the stages of generation and completion. This is the profound, marvelous, swift path to achieving all supreme and mundane siddhis simultaneously. The great presentation of Arti states, it is better for the Guru to appear in the mandala of your mind than to visualize 100,000 kayas of deities. And worshipping the Buddhas of the three times is not equivalent to 1/100th of worshipping the Guru. In summary, do not do anything to displease your Guru for even an instant, but rather please him with your body, speech, and mind, and listen to whatever he says. If you please him by all that you do, this will purify all your previous karma, mental afflictions, and habitual propensities, and you will instantly accomplish an ocean of accumulations of merit and knowledge. The best form of service is to establish the teachings of the practice lineage through rendering service by way of your spiritual practice. Middling is to render service with your body and speech, which can merely purify obscurations of the body, speech, and mind. And the least form of service is to please the Guru with material goods, which adds to your accumulations of the two kinds. The Tantra of the Supreme Samaya states, faithful ones who desire siddhis. Siddhis arise from pleasing the Guru. The disadvantages of displeasing the Guru are stated in the illusory matrix. The disadvantage of disparaging the Guru and disturbing his mind is that suffering is experienced for the duration it would take to scoop out all the water in the great outer ocean with a hair. This is known as Vajra hell. The way to confess that is stated in the self-arising pristine awareness tantra. If your samayas degenerate regarding your teacher, create a great mandala of Ganakakra offerings. And do the same for your Vajra siblings. Make offerings of goods that please your teacher. And offer whatever you have to the Arya. Therefore, please your Guru by preparing and offering a mandala of Ganakakra offerings, butter lamps, and so forth, and by confessing your faults. If the fault is by way of your body, purify it by placing your body in the service of the Guru. If the fault is by way of your speech, proclaim the virtues of the Guru to the 10 directions. If the fault is by way of your mind, you should primarily focus your attention on the cultivation of admiration, reverence, and the Guru's positive qualities. As for the measure of having confessed the fault, by confessing perverse aspirations and contempt 7 or 10 times, they will be purified, but if 3 years pass by, they will not. The presentation of Samayas states, if someone who commits a misdeed toward the Guru feels remorse about it and confesses it 7 or 10 times, the misdeed will be purified. But if 3 years pass, Vajrasattva will not allow it. At all times, do not dwell on the Guru's errors but recall his positive qualities. Like a patient devoting himself to a doctor, reverently and sincerely devote your body, speech, and mind in honor and service for the sake of gaining liberation from the chronic disease of samsara. Just as one who wants a boat ride relies on the boatman in order to cross the river of suffering of samsara, you should always bear in mind whatever the Guru says. Just as a merchant relies on the caravan leader, one seeking liberation should adhere to the mind of the Guru who reveals the authentic path. Free of deception, you should know the nature of the precious ninefold assembly and devote yourself to it with immutable faith. The great reverberation of sound root Tantra states, the advantages of devoting yourself to the Guru are immeasurably greater than the advantages of a wish-fulfilling tree, a wish-fulfilling jewel, and a wish-fulfilling cow. Bearing this in mind, devote yourself to the Guru, and this will turn the battle of samsara. 2. Second, as for the cultivation of affection and pure perception regarding your Vajra siblings and friends, these are the kinds of Vajra siblings: general siblings who are pervaded by the Shugatagava, distant siblings who are devoted to the Buddha's teachings, close siblings who have entered the gateway of Vajrayana, those who are like siblings of the same father Guru, and those who are like siblings belonging to the same mother Mandala. Those who depend on the same Guru and Mandala are like twin brothers and sisters. You must never part from a sense of affection and love for them all, and always act with pure altruism toward them. Since you must accompany them until you ultimately achieve enlightenment, if your affection and samayas degenerate, you will wander in regions where the Dharma is nowhere to be found. Therefore, you must arouse affection and keep your samayas, and continually cultivate faith and pure perception toward them as being of the nature of vairas and dakhanas. 3. Third, regarding the cultivation of compassion for sentient beings, there is not even one sentient being within the 3 realms of existence who has never been your parent, and beings are all constantly tormented by suffering in an unbearable prison of misery, without even a moment of happiness. So out of heartfelt, earnest compassion you must strive for and accomplish the state of liberation and omniscience. Therefore, nowhere is it said that even though you are devoid of loving kindness, compassion, and bodhisattva, you can achieve Buddhahood by following some other profound path. Recognizing that these 3 are the core of all paths, you must practice them correctly. 4. Fourth, regarding the meditation on the impermanence of composite phenomena, by constantly reflecting on the ways in which all composite phenomena are impermanent, you see that no one who is born is immortal. Moreover, by considering the various aspects of impermanence, such as the uncertainty of the time of death and the unpredictability of the causes of death, you must bear death in mind and always diligently apply your body, speech, and mind to the Dharma, without falling under the influence of distraction and laziness for even an instant. Now you have the freedom to practice the Dharma, and you have the eyes with which to distinguish what to adopt and what to avoid. If you are incapable of practicing the authentic Dharma on this occasion, then when you eventually contract a terminal illness, there's no way you will be able to practice in the face of death. So by recognizing this, dispense with mundane activities and dwell in inactivity. This is the unsurpassed quintessence of all sublime dharmas. 3 vital points are offering service to your Guru by not squandering his practical instructions, honoring your samayas without hypocrisy, as the life principle stone of the gods and guardians, and devoting your whole life to the Dharma, so that you know there is nothing left unfinished at the time of death. Guarding your samayas and vows like your own life force is the vital point that prevents contemplatives from reverting to ordinary states. Recognizing that all pleasures that appear to the five senses are like last night's dream, be content with just enough food to sustain your life and with clothing that is merely adequate to protect you from the wind. This is advice that will protect you from being led astray to negative things. Recognizing that mundane activities are utterly devoid of any essence, cut off the addictions of attachment and anger, such as activities of subduing your enemies and protecting your friends. Recognizing that mundane activities are never finished and accomplished, that they are endless like lines of smoke from an incense clock, strictly control your mind without wasting your life thinking that you will practice the Dharma tomorrow or the next day. Swiftly applying yourself to essential practice is the pith instruction for bringing an end to harmful conduct. Planning to practice Dharma after your mundane tasks are finished and so on is the way to become a Mara by not practicing Dharma. Avoiding that, from the time that you enter the door of Dharma until you die, assiduously and single-pointedly devote yourself day and night to the practice of original purity and spontaneous actualization, without letting your body, speech, and mind fall under the influence of unconscientious conduct that is contrary to the Dharma even for an instant. It is very important that you maintain a firm practice and generate courage and fortitude. Thus, if you can devote your entire life to the Dharma, that is best. If you devote half your life to the Dharma, that is middling. At the very least you should meditate for a few months. Those who don't meditate even that much are brainless, meritless people with no essence who are imprudent regarding both this life and the hereafter. Just look at how you have wasted your life until now. Now for the remainder of your life, which is like a fleeting ray of sunlight, if you fail to take a step on the path to liberation, you will not gain a human life of leisure and opportunity repeatedly. It will be difficult for you to meet with qualified gurus, and it will be hard to find practical instructions on the sublime Dharma. Consider this very carefully. By not disregarding his practical instructions, you must not be shamed by your guru. By not being devious regarding your samayas, you must not be shamed by the gods and guardians, and by devoting your entire life to the Dharma and having no regrets when you die, you must not be shamed by yourself. Now, from whichever of two points of view, mundane and spiritual, and whatever fame, power, and wealth you may have, overcome your pride and take the lowest place, as if you were a leper. When you encounter hostile environments and adversities, whatever suffering comes your way, do not lose your courage, but be like a wild lunatic who recognizes everything as being like an illusion and a dream. Some people leave their little home and move elsewhere, and then claim to be hermits. With lies and deceit they mislead others, and clinging to the greater home, they spend the time in inappropriate, mundane activities. This is a disaster. The Venerable Milarepa declared, if Dharma practitioners do not remain in retreat, there is no greater disaster than that. Others appear as old monks and pompously claim that they can guide the dead and protect the living. Making their living from wages demanded as repayment for the corpses and so on, they squander their lives while arrogantly viewing this as virtue. Gurus who take money by wielding their authority and bandits who take money by violent means are similar in their intentions and conduct, so they are objects worthy of great compassion. Therefore, you must take stock of yourself and swiftly accomplish something very meaningful for the hereafter. 4. How to finally progress on the grounds leading to the ultimate fruition of eternal liberation. First you gain knowledge in reliance upon training. Then you gain experience in your own mindstream and realization by means of investigation and analysis. But liberation is not achieved merely by such knowledge and realization, just as hunger is not satisfied if you have food but don't eat it. Just as darkness does not appear once dawn has broken, when you have given up the 9 kinds of activity, you acquire stability within yourself due to the power of meditation. When there is no fragmentation of the panoramic sweep of pristine awareness, indwelling confidence is acquired within your own pristine awareness. Still, that by itself will not bring you to enlightenment. When phenomenal appearances have been extinguished into ultimate reality, there is an infinite expansion into the great, all-encompassing sphere of the absolute space of phenomena, devoid of even a trace of the appearances and mindsets of samsara. You have then reached the state of liberation. Within this experience, even the subtlest of cognitive obscurations have been utterly cleared away, and mastery is gained over great primordial consciousness that knows reality as it is and perceives the full range of phenomena. So you achieve Buddhahood in the Dharmakaya, which is like space, and the three kayas arise as displays of uniform pervasiveness. First, by devoting yourself to a sublime, qualified Vajra Guru, and in reliance upon unmistaken training in whatever is to be practiced, you gain knowledge by way of the wisdom gained through listening to teachings. Next, as a result of investigation and analysis, experiences arise within your mind-stream, and realization is gained by way of the wisdom gained through reflection. Finally, you should become deeply familiar with that which has been realized until this culminates in the freedom of the four kinds of unshakable confidence. Without it, liberation will not be gained due to such knowledge and realization alone, just as hunger is not satisfied if you have a mountain of food but don't eat it. Once you have given up the 9 kinds of activity, the stability acquired within yourself as a result of the power of the wisdom of meditation is like darkness being banished once dawn has broken. When there is no fragmentation of the panoramic sweep of pristine awareness, indwelling confidence is acquired within your own pristine awareness. That by itself will not bring you to enlightenment. Thus, once phenomenal appearances have transformed into the nature of ultimate reality, the fundamental basis of samsara is voided, dualistic fixations are immediately released, and appearances of self and others dissolve into the absolute space of phenomena. Grasping at attachments, aversions, hopes, and fears is then vanquished, ignorance is dispelled in the ground of being, and you gain the vision of ultimate reality. By cutting the root of self-grasping, the grasping mind is extinguished. By severing the bonds of dualistic grasping from your heart, grasped objects are extinguished, and with the extinction of dualistic concepts, you expand into the purity and equality of samsara and nirvana. At this time, with your body like a corpse lying in a charnel ground, even if you were surrounded by 100 assassins, there would be no fear or trepidation. With your speech repeating after others like an echo, the movement of the vital energy of your speech is naturally released in its own place of rest. With your mind like a rainbow disappearing into the sky, phenomenal appearances are extinguished into ultimate reality, and there is an infinite expansion into the great, all-encompassing sphere of the absolute space of phenomena, original purity, free of conceptual elaboration and devoid of even a trace of the appearances and mindsets of samsara. You have then reached the state of liberation. At this time there are 3 levels. Optimally, dreams are purified in the clear light, which uninterruptedly pervades all your experiences throughout the day and night. Next best is to recognize the dream state for what it is, leading to such abilities as emanating within and transforming dreams. At the very least, bad dreams cease altogether and you have only good dreams, such as dreams of seeing deities and Buddha fields, drawing mandalas, bestowing empowerments upon others, and teaching the Dharma, for negative habitual propensities have been extinguished. Some people claim to have extinguished phenomena into ultimate reality, but in doing so, they are subjects, revealing the fault that such extinction into ultimate reality has not occurred. Others claim that they are pretending to have attachment and clinging even though they have no such grasping, but such frauds, who pretend to have what they lack, have not gained such extinction. So accomplished scholars rebuke them by way of scriptures and reasoning. Even when you reach the immutable nature of reality, like briefly glimpsing your own fingers during an occasional flash of lightning, due to your very subtle, lingering cognitive obscurations, you return to talking and so on, as you did in the past. Then, for those with superior faculties, even the subtlest cognitive obscurations are completely cleared away within 7 days, for those with middling faculties, 6 months, and for those with inferior faculties within 1 year. Then you gain mastery over the ground of being by means of the primordial consciousness that knows reality as it is. Due to gaining mastery over the path by means of the primordial consciousness that perceives the full range of phenomena, your Dharmakaya is the essential nature of emptiness, your Sambhogakaya is the unimpeded nature of spontaneous actualization, and your Nirmanakaya manifests as unimpeded displays of omnipresent compassion. For your own sake, you realize the state of the Dharmakaya in the great expanse of the uniformly pervasive three kayas, and you become a Buddha. For the sake of others, by means of the Rupakayas, you arise as the great Sambhogakaya of absolute space until the three realms of samsara are empty. Emerging from this are the Nirmanakayas and Sambhogakayas, the 6 sages who subdue living beings, and one who reveals the ways of the Buddhas, such as Sakyamuni, by way of the 12 enlightened deeds of a supreme Nirmanakaya. In addition, you reveal created Nirmanakayas, living being Nirmanakayas, material Nirmanakayas, and so on, manifesting in whatever ways are needed to train sentient beings. In these ways you manifestly perform the deeds of a Buddha, in which your own well-being and that of others are perfected in the vast ability to serve the needs of the world. When such yogins pass away, there appear the external signs of enlightenment, such as the being enveloped in 2 kinds of light, the sun and moon being inserted into the mouth of Rahula, the earth quaking in 6 ways, and the roaring of 5 kinds of sounds. Inner signs include the emergence of bone relics, granular relics, and the 2 kinds of peaceful and wrathful kayas. When all the signs of Buddhahood occur, one has manifestly achieved perfect enlightenment. The Blazing Bone Relics states, for a person of superior mental faculties, in this delusive appearance, the elements dissolve away right where they are. In the fruition of the ultimate nature of reality, the defiled aggregates vanish, and one achieves the fruition of one's own enlightenment. The external signs of an individual achieving nirvana are the emergence of peaceful and wrathful kayas and bone relics, lights and sounds, and the quaking of the earth. The mirror of the heart of Vajrasattva states, one who achieves perfect Buddhahood becomes enlightened without leaving any aggregates behind. With the manifest achievement of perfect Buddhahood, lights, sounds, peaceful and wrathful kayas, bone relics, earthquakes, and so on occur. Then, key distinctions are to be made between the mind and pristine awareness, b. mentation and wisdom, c. conditioned consciousness and primordial consciousness, and d. the substrate and dharmakaya. A. The distinction between the mind and pristine awareness. Son of the family, the defining characteristic of the mind is ignorance of the ground of being, with concepts subject to origination and cessation emerging as its creative displays. The defining characteristic of pristine awareness is the realization of the ground of being, with a great, atemporal state of relaxation as its creative display. The ground pristine awareness is knowing the mode of existence of the ground of being. The path pristine awareness is lucid, clear consciousness, free of contamination, by which you experience ultimate reality. All-pervasive pristine awareness, in which these 2 aspects are simultaneously conjoined, is the great perfection. The mind is subdivided into the mind that clings to delusive appearances, the mind that seeks the path by way of affirmation and negation, and the mind that sees naked consciousness. The first refers to the minds of ordinary sentient beings who seek the path but do not perceive the entrance to the actual path. The second refers to the mind observing the mind, thoughts observing thoughts, consciousness observing thoughts, modifications by the intellect and mentation, rejecting vices, nurturing virtues, and merely arousing joys and sorrows. Because you are seeking the path, this is called taking the mind as the path. The third refers to the actualization of unimpeded conditioned consciousness, which is the ground of the mind. Because it does not realize the view, outer appearances are reduced to an ethically neutral state, and since appearances are grasped as things, reification is not averted. Inwardly, your own body is ethically neutral, so reified fixation upon the body is not averted. Since both are grasped as ethically neutral and autonomously existent, the mind is not transcended, therefore, this too is called the mind. In summary, the mind is of the nature of confusion, involving ignorance of the mode of existence of the ground of being and not knowing its characteristics, with various concepts emerging from it as its creative displays, together with the creation and cessation of mental processes and roving thoughts that grasp at objects and come under their domination. These are the defining characteristics of the mind. Its essential nature is ignorance. Its creative expressions are thoughts, the 8 kinds of consciousness, and the primary mind and mental factors, and the appearance of its radiance and its displays are relative. Pristine awareness realizes the essential nature of the ground of being, the absolute space of the purity and equality of the 3 kayas. The creative power of pristine awareness is transformed into great primordial consciousness. These are the defining characteristics of pristine awareness. Such pristine awareness that is present in the ground Dharmakaya, free of extremes, is the mode of existence of the great, vast expanse, free of conceptual elaboration. The ground pristine awareness is the total, authentic comprehension of the nature of being of the kayas and great primordial consciousness. Independence upon the pith instructions of a sublime guru, the characteristics and nature of being of the ultimate reality of the ground, which is empty, luminous, unconditioned, spontaneously actualized, lucid, clear, and devoid of contamination, are realized. This realization of the nature of the great clear light of awareness is the path pristine awareness. Once you have experienced the ground pristine awareness and have come to the culmination of the path, the all-pervasive awareness in which these creative displays are simultaneously conjoined and perfected is called the great perfection, and this is the fruitional pristine awareness. Its essential nature is the Dharmakaya, its creative power is primordial consciousness, and its displays are ultimate. B. The distinction between mentation and wisdom. The term mentation refers to the consciousness that experiences all appearances that emerge as apparitions of thoughts. The term mental consciousness refers to the unimpeded avenue for the 6 objects that emerge as appearances. The ground wisdom correctly knows the nature of samsara and nirvana to be great emptiness. The path wisdom is the identification of unadulterated, open, unimpeded consciousness. The simultaneous conjunction of these two is called pervasive wisdom. Mentation is the clear light nature of the mind and the basis for the emergence of various apparitions of thoughts, and it is the unimpeded basis for experiencing all appearances of the outer physical world and its inner sentient inhabitants. The 6 objects unimpededly emerge as appearances that are seen, heard, smelled, tasted, and felt within its expanse, and all appearing objects are apprehended distinctly. This is called mental consciousness. Ground wisdom comprehends all of samsara and nirvana in the expanse of the one great emptiness, and it correctly knows and is aware of how this is completely perfect. Path wisdom identifies the mode of existence of the Dharmakaya, the Shugatagarbha, and finally realizes unadulterated, open pristine awareness, uncontaminated by intellectual concepts, luminous and empty, free of grasping, the unimpeded avenue of self-illuminating primordial consciousness. The great, omnipresent primordial consciousness that emerges with the simultaneous, uniformly pervasive union of the ground wisdom and path wisdom is called pervasive wisdom. C. The distinction between conditioned consciousness and primordial consciousness. The unimpeded avenue for appearing objects that emerge as sensory appearances is called conditioned consciousness. Thoughts that reify these appearances as things are called karmic energies. With the conjunction of these subtle and coarse aspects of mental consciousness, samsara is thoroughly established. The primordial consciousness that knows reality as it is correctly knows the nature of ultimate reality, the Shugetagava. When the mode of existence of suckness, ultimate reality, is actualized, unimpeded, all-knowing, all-cognizing awareness is the primordial consciousness that perceives the full range of phenomena. The uniform pervasiveness of these two is called the originally pure primordial consciousness of equality. Conditioned consciousness is the naturally present lucidity and luminosity that allows for the emergence of sensory appearances, which manifest as appearing objects in the expanse of mentation. As consciousness enters into the paths of the individual sensory channels, it encounters objects and non-conceptually apprehends them. The 5 kinds of sensory consciousness are the emergences of appearances of forms, sounds, smells, tastes, and tactile sensations, for they look outward by way of the individual senses. The apprehension of appearances as distinct things is mounted upon karmic energies, and the subsequent naming and the reification of their reference is mental consciousness. With the conjunction of the subtle and coarse aspects of former and subsequent consciousness, samsara is thoroughly established. The primordial consciousness that knows reality as it is correctly knows the nature of ultimate reality, the Shugetagava, the natural radiance of the great, uniformly pervasive absolute space of the 3 kayas. It knows the nature of all the kayas, facets of primordial consciousness, path, and fruition, and it perceives the mode of existence of the ground of being. When the entire mode of existence and nature of being of suckness, ultimate reality, is experienced without being reduced to an assumption, such that pristine awareness is perfected in its own essential nature and the path is actualized, one knows the characteristics of all phenomena. The unimpeded avenue of clear light by which all the phenomena of samsara and nirvana are realized as self-emergent displays of pristine awareness, is called the primordial consciousness that perceives the full range of phenomena. The essential nature of such primordial consciousness that knows reality as it is and perceives the full range of phenomena, is originally pure, and due to the displays of samsara and nirvana as purity and equality in the absolute space of phenomena, free of conceptual elaboration, there is the originally pure primordial consciousness of equality. D. The distinction between the substrate and dharmakaya. An ethically neutral state results from the influence of ignorance of the ground of being. Various karmic energies move within the space of the substrate, like various streams appearing during sleep, and this is the basis and root of the whole of samsara. Within the wide open clarity of ultimate reality, free of the extremes of conceptual elaboration, the great purity and equality of samsara and nirvana, all appearing phenomena are the spacious dharmakaya, samantabhadra. In the substrate, the inner glow of the ground absolute space, the great dharmakaya, does not manifest, and due to the ground being veiled by ignorance, the ground is reduced to an ethically neutral state. The substrate of descent is like being thoroughly immersed in a state in which the creative power of the inner glow is impeded, as when you are deep asleep. The temporarily luminous substrate is the luminosity and non-conceptuality of the substrate consciousness. Just as various dream appearances emerge from the domain of this substrate, so do karmic energies move from the space of the substrate, serving as the basis for the emergence of all manner of appearances, and this is the essential nature, basis, and root of all of samsara. The essential nature of the substrate is ignorance, appearances are its radiance, mental factors are its creative expressions, and all phenomena are included in its relative displays. The dharmakaya knows the characteristics of the ground Shugetagava, the nature of the 3 kayas, and the 5 facets of primordial consciousness, and it realizes the empty, identityless nature of all phenomena in the great, omnipresent nature of all of samsara and nirvana. Recognizing all reified appearances as ultimate reality, free of conceptual elaboration, the great purity and equality of samsara and nirvana, it is uncontaminated by the mental defilements of reification. Never wavering from the nature of wide open, spacious clarity, it is called the dharmakaya, samantabhadra. Unchanged by any kind of fault or positive quality and immutable throughout the 3 times, it is called the dharmakaya. To summarize the vital points of the ultimate and the relative. Son of the family, all reflections of the moon and other things in water are displays of the water and are none other than water. All unmoving and moving things in the physical world and its sentient inhabitants are displays of space and are none other than space. All of samsara and nirvana consists of displays of the one ultimate reality and is none other than ultimate reality. Thus, when the great depth and luminosity of the ground Dharmakaya is actualized, its essential nature is the Dharmakaya, the purity and equality of samsara and nirvana, its manifest nature is the Sambhogakaya, replete with the facets of primordial consciousness and sublime qualities, and the Nirmanakaya is self-illuminating compassion, free of obscuring veils. Its displays are called ultimate. Ignorance of the essential nature of the originally pure ground of being is the substrate. Appearances arise from its radiance and displays of mental factors arise as its creative expressions, and they are called relative. Son of the family, all appearances of planets, stars, and other reflections in the lucid clarity of water are displays of the water and are none other than water. All appearances of the physical world and its sentient inhabitants, however vast and numerous they may be, are displays of space and are none other than space. Likewise, all phenomena within samsara and nirvana, however vast and numerous they may be, are displays of the ultimate nature of the mind, the one Shugatagava, and are none other than that. In the ground of being they are of one taste, and they are none other than the ultimate nature of the ground. Thus, when the great depth and luminosity of the ground Dharmakaya is actualized, its essential nature is the Dharmakaya, the purity and equality of samsara and nirvana, its manifest nature is the Sambhogakaya, replete with the facets of primordial consciousness that knows reality as it is and perceives the full range of phenomena, and the Nirmanakaya is self-illuminating compassion, free of obscuring veils. This abides as the two avenues of the luminous, unimpeded nature of the ground, manifesting in 6 ways. The Dharmakaya is its essential nature, wisdom is its radiance, the facets of primordial consciousness are its creative expressions, and its displays are called ultimate. The substrate is the ethically neutral state of ignorance of the essential nature and character of the originally pure ground of being. Ignorance is its essential nature, appearances are its radiance, mental factors are its creative expressions, and its displays are said to be relative. As for the manner in which samsara and nirvana are finally encompassed by great ultimate reality. Having recognized in this way the nature of all displays, encompassments, and uniform pervasiveness, you simply rest in ultimate reality and come to certainty in the natural abiding of great, intellect transcending, spacious, vacuous, ineffable ultimate reality. Until great, omniscient primordial consciousness is attained, practice with intense, unflagging enthusiasm. Adhere to this supreme vital point. With these words, he expanded into the absolute space of ultimate reality. Regarding encompassments, all reflections of the planets and stars in water are encompassed by the water. All these inanimate things and animate beings are encompassed by space. All appearances of samsara and nirvana, however vast and numerous, are encompassed by the one ultimate reality of the ground of being. The perfection of the lion's creative power states. In the vast expanse of Samantabhadri's Bharga, the 5 elements of the world of appearances of samsara and nirvana are perfected. The all-creating sovereign states. Thus, there is nothing in the entire appearing world of all of samsara and nirvana that does not dwell in space. Likewise, all Buddhas, sentient beings, physical worlds, and inhabitants are encompassed by the great, vast expanse of Bodhisattva. Regarding displays, just as reflections of the planets and stars are displays of the ocean, and the physical world and its sentient inhabitants are displays of space, so are samsara and nirvana displays of ultimate reality. regarding uniform pervasiveness, just as the physical world and its sentient inhabitants are pervaded by space and reflections of the planets and stars are pervaded by the ocean, so are samsara and nirvana pervaded and permeated by the ground of being. Having correctly recognized the nature as the mode of existence and nature of being of the ground, pervaded by ultimate reality, you simply rest in the nature of ultimate reality, without modifying anything. Utterly resting in that state is the great settling in the essential nature. This is the great transcendence of the intellect, for it is free of the intellect's grasping and striving. This is the great spaciousness, for it is the great, unmodified release into your own nature. In summary, there is nothing to be apprehended such that you can say, it's like this. You must come to certainty in the nature of great, vacuous, ineffable ultimate reality, devoid of the ways of signs and words. As the treasury of the mode of existence states. In the great expanse that is nameless and free of conceptual elaboration. Come to certainty concerning phenomena of the world of appearances of samsara and nirvana. Come to certainty regarding all phenomena of samsara and nirvana that arise from the nature of pristine awareness, primordially free of conceptual elaboration. As the great reverberation of sound root tantra states, the place of liberation is the very beginning. Therefore, until great, omniscient primordial consciousness is attained, practice with intense, unflagging enthusiasm. Take a rocky cave as your cap, the primordial consciousness of pristine awareness as your companion, and nettles and leaves as your food. Entrust your innermost heart to the Dharma. Entrust your innermost Dharma to poverty. Entrust your innermost poverty to death. Entrust your death to an empty cave. Adhere to single-pointed practice as the supreme vital point. With these words, he expanded into the absolute space of ultimate reality. C. The virtuous conclusion. This text was written in response to heartfelt requests by Pema Lungtik Gyatso and Khenrap Gyatso, two Tulkis who have been connected to me over many lifetimes by the karma and prayers. I Traktung Düdjom Dorje Trilo Sal codified this from the treasury of the vast expanse of apparitional displays. The Dakinis prophesied that 68 sublime individuals would serve as custodians of this Dharma. By the command of the great Orgain, this was the first occasion on which auspicious circumstances came about, for these teachings to be written down. My own sublime son, the outstanding scholar Sonam Tenzin, Dodrup Rinpoche, carefully edited the manuscript. For this Dharma, there is virtue at the beginning due to the power of the teachings, virtue in between due to swift blessings, and virtue at the end due to auspiciousness. Living beings, including the gods, honor and revere these teachings with the words, well done. Wherever and whenever this Dharma spreads, may there be auspiciousness, Mangalam. Among the limitless, profound, secret, essential teachings. The foremost of them all are the pith instructions on the great perfection. This uncommon path to achieving enlightenment in one life. This profound entrance to the profound, essential meaning. The way of teaching of the oral traditions of Vidyadhara gurus is synthesized in this essential ambrosia of secret teachings. Of the protector, the incomparable, great treasure of the Master Guru. May they beautifully arise in the glorious lotus of my mind. With the reverent, sublime intention of a healer for the teachings and the world. I have synthesized the vital essence of the authoritative words of advice of the oral lineage into essential points for practice, and have written them down with clarity. If fortunate ones embrace this as the crown jewel, they will be liberated in this life, without needing to strive for eons. May those fortunate beings instantly achieve perfect enlightenment. By the power of this profound path. May the omniscient sovereign Sang Ngak Lingpa Trime Oza fully preserve the teachings of the mind of Samantabhadra. May the all-illuminating light totally dispel the darkness of delusion of living beings. May everyone be led to the lotus light. May we be among his initial circle of disciples. And may the awareness of the teacher and disciples become indivisible. May the teachings of the Jinnahs spread in all 10 directions. May those who uphold the Jinnah's teachings enjoy long lives. And may the essential Dharma of the tradition of the Lord of Jinnahs, Padmasambhava, spread and flourish in all the realms of the Jinnahs. As difficult as it is to utter the name of our sublime guide and teacher, out of need I beseech the omniscient Lord, the great and precious treasure Pema Ledral Sal, Drime Oza, to heed me with his great compassion. Out of concern that the precious teachings of these myriad pith instructions, which are like refined ambrosia, might be forgotten, without citing elaborations on the path, such as sacred texts or reasonings, I have accurately written this down in accordance with the oral transmission, without mental fabrications. With the intention to benefit both myself and others, I, who bear just a vestige of being a consort, the lowliest of all disciples, Dekan Due Dorje, or Kunzang Dekyong Wangmo, have written this down in an easily understandable way, a text that is praised by a prophecy of the great treasure himself. The erudite Dharma Sultram Dorje, or Yongdrup Rikpe Dorje, provided wonderful assistance in this composition. May this spread and flourish in all directions and at all times. Sarva Mangalam. These notes were previously edited by Kyapje Rinpoche, Drume Oza, himself, and though he said a commentary should be written, many circumstances of time and place occurred, including the passing of Kyapje Rinpoche himself, and the work was set aside. Then Akje 1 Jikme Sultram and my disciples suggested that the commentary could be clarified somewhat to make it easier to teach. Due to this meaningful suggestion, I made additions to the text, drawing from his oral teachings that had never been received before, and somewhat clarified the text in that way. May the great perfection of the early translation school of Padmasambhava, the definitive meaning of the essential tradition of Düdjom Lingpa, this profound treasure, be preserved without degeneration until the end of samsara, through both teaching and practice. Virtue. 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 Sarva Mangalam.